Hey there everyone, Jordan Mason here from Cinelinx.com, and I'm here to bring you a brand new episode of the recap trailer breakdown for what else? Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Now, yes, it's been a while since we've presented you a trailer breakdown, but with the brand new Star Wars trailer, couldn't help myself. I think it's definitely time to resurrect with a brand new Star Wars trailer. Of course, this is the first trailer for this year's new Star Wars movie that acts as a standalone film. It takes place just before Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, where we first met Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and all of them. The basic plot of this movie is laid out in this new trailer, so let's just go ahead and get right on into it.
State your name for the record.
Jyn Erso.
Now, if you didn't catch that, this is our brand new hero for the movie, Jyn Erso. She's Felicity Jones's character. We get a fleeting glimpse of her as she's going through here. The same rebel base on Yavin 4 that we saw in the original Star Wars film. Now, it's clear that they're walking her in handcuffs, so there's no real idea here of why. And then they start listing off various charges, I'm assuming charges that the Empire wants her for. What I get from this and gather from this is that she's not essentially a part or a big part of the rebellion at this point, and that she's more kind of waging her own war. And her activities have started to draw the attention of higher-ups like Mon Mothma. Now, this was my big moment in the trailer. I could not believe we're seeing Mon Mothma on screen again. And this is just dead-on perfect casting. The actress playing Mon Mothma that you see right here is Genevieve O'Reilly. She was actually cast to play a younger version of Mon Mothma in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And the majority of her scenes were cut. I think you saw her in maybe half a second in one scene. But she was cast to play the role about 11 years ago. So it's really neat to see that they have brought her back, the same actress they had cast to play a younger version, to play it once again, and I think it's still dead-on perfect casting. There we get our first look at Diego Luna's character. Again, no real idea who he's playing, what character he may end up being in the end. There's been tons of rumors surrounding him that he could be playing a different version of Biggs, or some of the other minor characters in the background of the first movie, but the fact is we just don't know at this point. Here we get to see a whole bunch, a few little action pieces of Jyn on her own, fighting the Imperials. We see this big explosion, but it's kind of obvious that they're not connected to the scene where she was shooting. This is kind of a big explosion. This is not caused by a single blaster. More than likely, this has something bigger behind it that we just don't see, and it's uniquely cut. Because as you can see, she's ducking down right there from the same explosion, so it's probably not the one that she caused just by firing that rifle. Now, if we back up just a little bit, just before that, we can see this droid character behind her, and more than likely that's the motion capture droid character that we know Alan Tudyk is playing. Now, we don't know a whole lot about this droid character in general, but some of the rumors have that he was a former Imperial droid, maybe a fighter droid or a protector droid, who has been reprogrammed by some of these rebels, or maybe even Jyn Erso herself before she joins the rebellion and is now fighting on the opposite side.
I rebel.
Easily one of the best lines and most memorable in this trailer. And if you've been paying attention online a whole lot to people who've been reacting to this trailer, that's one of the key pieces of dialogue people have been honing in on. It's just a neat piece of dialogue. It's a really neat connection to show that she's kind of a loner. She kind of does what she wants, even in the face of the one of the most high up people in the rebellion. She still kind of has a smart-ass attitude. Even in such a short trailer, we get a good glimpse of her character and her personality and how she's going to come off on screen. And a lot of it's due to lines like this. From here, things start getting away from the character part of it into more of the plot part of it, and showing scenes. There's a lot of things in this trailer that harken back to the original things we've heard about this movie. You know, Gareth Edwards has said multiple times in interviews that he wanted to put the war back into Star Wars and really wanted to make this a war film. So we see a lot of shots that remind us of that. Up right here is one of my favorite parts of this trailer. So much going on in that scene. Just an incredible visual piece. You know, at first you see the Star Destroyer and it looks almost like they dug the props out of the Lucasfilm archives. ILM has done a fantastic job of recreating the original feel of these Star Destroyers, and it looks like it's pulled straight out of the original movie, right off a model. That's one of the things that struck me most first. And then you get this slow reveal of the Death Star. And what's so cool about it is that initially it looks like you're looking at a Star Destroyer with a field of stars behind it, but as you pull away, the shadow kind of pulls back and you see these aren't stars at all. This is just how massive the Death Star is. And what's really cool is that even though The Force Awakens showed us a weapon that was even bigger, Gareth Edwards and his, visual style here has managed to give a sense of scale to the Death Star unlike anything else, and it makes it feel threatening once again. Here we have our first solid look at the film's new villain. Now, we obviously don't know who he is. We don't get a name for him. We haven't gotten a name for him just yet, but this is Ben Mendelsohn, who's obviously playing some high-up Imperial villain of some sort. We can see him standing there, all white uniform, wearing the cape like a badass. The only problem is we don't know who he is. There's been tons of speculation around, theories that he's a Grand Admiral because of the white uniform. My theory right now has been that he's actually a character we've heard about and seen in one of the books so far. One of the new canon books, Tarkin, gave us a really good look at the backdrop to the Imperial forces, especially those close to the Emperor. People in really high positions of power beyond just Tarkin and Darth Vader himself. And they gave us clues of this inner circle that Palpatine trusts to help run the Empire. And so I've theorized and believe that this guy, Ben Mendelsohn character here, is potentially one of those characters named in that book, which would be a neat way to tie in some of those characters from the books, which we've also heard about happening before. Either way, this short, quick shot really sells the fact home that he's a villain. Everything about this shot screams bad guy, and it's another great visual storytelling dynamic that Gareth Edwards is so good about bringing to his films. Even though it's so quick, you immediately know that this is a guy both in charge and who's a villain, and is going to give a lot of trouble to the heroes in this film. I'm going to do a lot of quick stops here, mostly because I think these are interesting to point out. You have a bunch of different looking troopers in this film. In the background you can see someone on this hover tank. You can see a different style of trooper who's driving the tank on top of the classic stormtrooper armor that we also have going on. Then we have our first look at Forrest Whitaker's character. Older guy, seems like he's wearing some big suit of armor, kind of hobbling around. No real indication of who he is either, but he has some incredible lines of dialogue as well that lead us to believe he's going to have some pretty important role to play in this film. Once again, we get a shot at another different kind of trooper. This one has been commonly referred to as shadow troopers. Just because of the all-black armor, we don't know what they're technically called. There's rumors going around that they're more like elite soldiers, elite forces, and stuff like that. Like I said, it's just another form of trooper that looks really pretty cool. There's another glimpse of this droid that we kind of saw earlier, as well as Diego Luna and Felicity Jones's character running away. We don't know where they are. This could be within the Death Star itself, could be in a Star Destroyer or some Imperial compound. We see a bunch more troopers as well chasing after them. You can see some sand-colored troopers in the background as well as normal stormtroopers. Then we get our first look at Donnie Yen's character. And it's a great first look. This is if you're going to cast Donnie Yen in a movie, this is exactly what you want him to do. You want him to look like a badass and to be a badass, and he does a great job here. It's a really short part of this trailer, but it's one that stood out to many people, and it's so cool to see Donnie Yen in this type of movie still doing what he does best, being awesome. Shadow troopers again, blowing up a ship. We get another look at Ben Mendelsohn's character. This looks like it's towards the end of a battle, and he's coming to survey what's going on. You see stormtroopers dead in the background, things on fire, and somehow his cape is still clean. Now, this right here is one of our most intriguing shots in the trailer, mostly because we have no idea what's going on. You see a hooded figure that's obviously starting to kneel down before this little chamber thing. And, initially when the trailer first dropped, many people were saying, oh, this must be Darth Vader. But Darth Vader doesn't wear a hood. He has his helmet. So this has to be someone else. We have 2 royal guards here who are the Emperor's personal protection. So what could they be doing in this chamber? We see this little, cylinder thing here that's obviously holding something. It could be a hologram projector. It could be a back-to-tank. It could be anything. I've argued for the back-to-tank theory just because of the hoses and the way the cylinder looks, but there's honestly no telling. That's why this scene is so intriguing and sparked a lot of debate online. What would the Emperor send his guards to protect that wasn't him, and who would be there kneeling before it? Is this a new villain that we haven't seen or heard about before? Could it be someone we've heard mention of in the books or even the Star Wars Rebels? There's a lot of speculation about this one, and I wish I had more answers for you. As it stands right now, it's still a cool shot. Now, one of the things I remarked on about this when I watched it, for the umpteenth time, is once again we see Forrest Whitaker's armor here, but if you look over at the shoulder plate here on his left-hand side, it looks just like the shoulder and neck armor that we've seen in Star Wars Rebels that Kanan wears. Not saying that there's any connection between the two at all. It's just one of those neat little visual connections. Now we get to see some other characters, and then we get to see this awesome money shot of the rebels on the beach up against a handful of these AT-AT walkers, or AT-ATs, however you want to pronounce it. And you really get a sense of how one-sided this whole thing is. And it's kind of scary because you see all these walkers and you just have these rebels on the ground running, trying to do something against them. And it really gives a sense of scale to the fight that they're fighting. And this is when the Empire is at one of their strongest. The rebels are nothing more than a thorn in their side at this point, and it's obvious from a shot like this, and it shows you how dire the situation is for the rebellion at this point. They're in a really tough spot, and if they don't get these Death Star plans, they could be wiped out potentially, which of course we know how that plays out. But I love how this movie, even though we know the ultimate result, I love how this trailer gives you that idea and sense of futility in the fight against the Empire, which can make the ultimate result feel even more victorious and more impactful upon future viewings, which is something I think these standalone films have to do. They really need to complement the main stories that have been told or are being told in order to feel relevant. Then our final shot, we get the "What will you become" line from Forrest Whitaker, and we see Felicity Jones, Jyn Erso, dressed up in Imperial garb. A bunch of people have thrown out ideas for what she's dressed up as. Could be Death Star gunner, could be a TIE pilot. It's hard to tell. The backpack on the back is kind of throwing me off as well, but we see her clearly dressed up as an Imperial. Now, of course, coupled with the line, "What will you become?" has some people thinking maybe she'll switch sides, or maybe she starts off on the other side and then switches over. I go with the theory that she's merely dressed up as an Imperial in order to sneak into some sort of Imperial compound or Star Destroyer or something as part of her bigger plan to get these Death Star plans. I think it's just that simple. I mean, we've seen it before in A New Hope with Luke and Han, of course, and even Star Wars Rebels has put some of their characters in Imperial uniforms before. If you're spying and trying to infiltrate somewhere, it makes a lot of sense to go in and get dressed up as the enemy. But of course, the idea with these trailers is to build up that tension, to get you wondering, and to get you thinking more and more about it. But the idea that she may switch sides, I don't think holds a whole lot of weight. All in all, I think this is an amazing trailer. Take out the Star Wars aspect of it, and I think it's just a really well cut together trailer. Beyond just the simple, oh, it's a new Star Wars movie, I get to see a new Star Wars movie trailer, which is, of course, really exciting to me. But take all that away, and it's just a well done trailer. You got great visuals, you've got excellent looking characters, you've got great dialogue that goes along with it, beautiful action shots. You add in Star Wars to that, you get to see classic characters like Mon Mothma, who's becoming a bigger and bigger influence in the books and extra material we're seeing. It's really neat to see that those connections are all coming together. I mean, this is our first real look at this new movie, and one of the things I think I like most about it is that while it gives us a good sense of what the overall plot is, it leaves us with a lot of questions. We don't know much about the characters. We only know one new character's name. We don't know how she plays into the bigger rebellion. We don't know why Mon Mothma contacted her directly and asked her to steal the Death Star plans, nor do we know about the new villains, how they play into everything. So while we know more of the plot, we don't know a lot about the characters and small details. And that's kind of the neat part of this marketing right now, is that even though we have this amazing trailer that gives away quite a good bit of the plot and the general idea, way more than we ever got in marketing materials for The Force Awakens, we still don't know a whole lot about the characters themselves and what drives them, and those are the stories that are going to be so fun to hear about. I mean, it's done what every great trailer should do, is make you want to see more. We've got new characters we can fall in love with. We've got an interesting new story, a different kind of story they're telling, and I think it's great for both fans and people who may be just getting started. All in all, it was an excellent first trailer for Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I think that's going to wrap it up for this trailer breakdown. I appreciate you staying with me. Hope that you enjoyed all the little insights we've given and broken down on it. If you noticed anything else you thought I should have brought up, please be sure to leave it in the comments and we'll try and discuss it on the next go round. We'll be eagerly waiting for the next Rogue One trailer to drop, which hopefully will be hitting in the summertime when Star Wars Celebration London hits. We can get a new look at this film and discuss it even further. As always, we appreciate your time. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends. Until next time, be sure to keep it tuned to Cinelinx.com.